Hello guys, it's me Ulquiorra, and in this video we'll talk about Ulquiorra's background by trying to delve deep to understand the nihilistic ideas of Ulquiorra as well as link it to the story, because there are some important things mentioned in this story related to the origin of the Hollows. So the story of Ulquiorra was released as a short chapter by Kubo and included in the third data book. The chapter consists of 10 pages. The chapter begins with an introduction that is actually related to the last events of that chapter, so that Ulquiorra found happiness inside a pile of white branches. But let's start guys from page number 2. In the first scene we see an inverted cross and a crescent. The inverted cross has several meanings according to the context in which it is placed. It may have a religious significance related to Christianity, like the story of Apostle Peter, who was crucified upside down because he didn't see himself worthy of being crucified like Christ. While on the opposite side, there is another meaning of this cross, which is a sign of Satan. And I think this is the context in which Kubo used it, because Ulquiorra's form in the resurrection mode and also the names of his Zanpakuto refers to this term, because the name of Ulquiorra's Zanpakuto is the Great Wind Demon. But what is clear is that this was the angle view of Ulquiorra. Kubo drew it in the shape of an inverted cross, and so Ulquiorra said, "What is there?" And then we see Ulquiorra inside a group of white branches, and he answered himself by saying, "There is nothing." Of course, his appearance is a vassal lord, since his appearance is close to a human, and at that time he hadn't met yet Aizen Sosuke. Then Ulquiorra will continue to speak so that he said important sentences. He said, "I was born in the bottom of a pit, where there was no light." And if we want to talk about the philosophical significance of Ulquiorra's words and the scenes that Kubo drew for him, I understand it like this. So Ulquiorra has a nihilistic view of his existence. He doesn't see any meaning in anything. And nihilism usually denies all concepts of morality, whether they have a religious or human source. And to make it easy to understand what I mean, let's consider the nihilism like darkness. For example, imagine that the pit in which Ulquiorra was born, like a room with many things, and there is a lamp that lights the room. The light of the lamp gives everything that is in the room a certain meaning. But if you remove the light, the room will become dark, and you will not see anything. The darkness will make you see nothing, and therefore the presence of the room and what is in it, it will not make any difference to you, because you don't see anything in the first place. That's what I think this is the meaning of Ulquiorra's words, because he said, "I was born inside a pit where there was no light," and he continued to talk about how he was born in the dark, not knowing what to become. But from the side related to the story of Bleach, he said, "I was born in a pit." Can this really means that Ulquiorra was born in the Wikomondo, in the sense that he was not human in the first place, not like Xylo Aporo, who was human and turned into a hollow and then continued to evolve until he became a vassal lord, according to the story of the novel of Spirits Are Forever With You. So the idea of Ulquiorra and that he was born in Wikomondo, I also started to think about it, because I think it's the one that may explain the thinking of Ulquiorra. And if we link it to Ichibi's words in the novel, or the Hollows was a part of the original world, meaning the Hollows didn't come from the human souls, but they existed as a race on its own. And this can mean that some Hollows may be entities that were not humans in the first place, such as Baragan, since he was a vassal lord from the beginnings of the world of Wikomondo. And this may happen too to Ulquiorra. He was directly born as a hollow. For this reason, he basically doesn't know what the heart is, because he didn't originally experience the feeling of having a heart if he was human in his previous life. Also, among the other things that we can notice on this page is that what made Ulquiorra increase his belief in the concept of nihilism and nothingness is his difference from the others. He was born white, while his comrades were pure black. Also, and this is the most important thing, they had mouth and teeth, and they used to devour something. In other words, they had an existential purpose and meaning. At least they did a specific thing. While Ulquiorra, he didn't originally have a mouth, as it appears on the next page. He didn't have a mouth to eat with it, or nose to smell with it. He only had 2 eyes, so he said, "I have nothing left but my eyes. And it seems that this difference made him subject to a kind of bullying or discrimination because he was different from them. If you notice, the other hollows that Kubo made had noses and therefore they could smell and eat and do other things. And so, if we assume that Ulquiorra was born as a hollow from the beginning, it automatically means that Ulquiorra was born without a heart, which can give us a closer look at what Ulquiorra was living in. The heart, or the word kokoro in Japanese language, can mean three things. By kokoro we can mean the heart, or the mind, or the soul. And so the lack of a heart for Ulquiorra that can give him feelings, whether negative or positive, that can form a meaning of his life, it didn't exist for him, which made him focus only on what his eyes see. And Ulquiorra made it clear when he said, "The things reflected in my eyes has no meaning, and the things that could not be reflected in my eyes do not exist," because he didn't even experience any kind of human feelings that come from the human heart, and those feelings can't be seen, but they can be felt. For example, in his fight against Ichigo, he was upset about how Ichigo still clings to Tensa Zangetsu even though he knows the difference in power between them. And yet Ichigo still wanted to fight him and even wanted to defeat him. Ulquiorra didn't know how human could do this simply because he didn't know anything called hope, or that human's motivation that makes a person keep trying and trying. And by the way, Kubo mentioned these concepts at the end of the manga through Ichigo and Yuhaba's conversation about hope and despair. Anyway, going back to the last pages of this story, it seems that the comrades of Ulquiorra wanted to kill him, or they wanted to eat him, because he was different from them. And then it might be that Ulquiorra killed them in self-defense, because after Ulquiorra came out of the pit, there was a blood on his body, his hand as well as his face, and maybe as a result of killing his comrades, he said that he didn't feel anything. So maybe his killing of his comrades didn't make him feel any particular feeling, because he was not able to eat or smell or touch or even rest. Thus it can be said that Ulquiorra was living in void in the full sense of the word, a physical and spiritual void, so that he kept wandering alone and everything he saw meant nothing to him until he found something exciting, that group of branches that formed the shape of a big tree. Ulquiorra named it the place of birth, and I think it's where the Wikomondo trees come from. For the first time, Ulquiorra, his eyes, has captured something interesting for him, so that through Ulquiorra's words he seemed to find something similar to his existence and close to him in many things. The color of those branches is white, which is the same as the color of Ulquiorra. And that thing, it didn't have a smell or make a sound, and it didn't interact with anything. It was just there, and these things made Ulquiorra feel that place is the closest things to void, so that Ulquiorra immediately began to sink into that void, which made him feel as everything disappeared and become a mere no existence. And this is what Ulquiorra called happiness. And in the next page, Ulquiorra woke up from his nap in which he had the dream we have seen about a part of his past. And then when he continued to say that happiness for him is not having anything to lose. And according to Ulquiorra, the thing that achieves this meaning is nihilism. Nihilism, according to Ulquiorra, is nothingness. In other words, if you had things in your possession, if you lose one of them or some of them, you will feel sadness and pain. That's why Ulquiorra believes that the nihilism is nothingness. Therefore, everything that his eyes see has no meaning to him, and what his eyes do not see does not exist. And so it was the end of the chapter that Kubo drew about the background of Ulquiorra. What I like the most about the last page is the presence of Inoue Orihime. Some see Orihime as a something not good in the battle of Ulquiorra and Ichigo, but I see it the opposite. The presence of Inoue Orihime is what made us see the personal aspect of Ulquiorra. Inoue is the opposite of Ulquiorra. If you remember Kisuke's words in chapter 535, he said that the opposite of humans are hollows, and this was evident in both Orihime and Ulquiorra. Orihime is a human person who carries all the meanings of the human's being. She is a human whose feeling leads her to do what she deems moral, such as healing even the people who have previously hurt her, or sacrificing for her friends so that they don't get hurt. Orihime also felt jealous of Rukia for not being able to help Ichigo, and she considered this feeling a bad feeling. in the sense that Orihime was a really mixture of all the good and the bad feelings of every human being, while that Holo, who is Ulquiorra, had a nihilistic view of everything. Doing good or bad, it doesn't mean anything to him, simply because everything he sees in front of him, it has no meaning. But his meeting with Orihime in Ichigo made him ask some questions about the heart. Unfortunately, when Ulquiorra started to get closer and closer to trying to understand these new things, Holo Ichigo had appeared and killed him. So guys, what do you think? Give me your opinion and see you in my next video.